that day I just really wanted to know, why I was getting pulled over and why I needed to step out the car when I know I didn't do nothing wrong. I was really just scared.
To see that video made me go back to the moment when I was 22. It hurted. It made me upset. But I seen what my son did that I had to do. And he sought right. And he did right. To see that is a hurting feeling. To be a father that loved God first. And to see all my kids not being able to wake up in the morning and get my phone call saying your child is gone.
Wow.
That's a hurting feeling, but I thank God.
Yes.
Because God got him.
I want you to try to put yourself in our shoes. Try to put yourself in William's shoes just for a second. The police stop you and tell you, you say, why are you stopping me? And they say, well, you don't have your headlights on and it's raining. And you look and you're like, there's no rain. Why are you stopping me? And all he does, why I say it's a Rosa Parks 21st century moment, he as a black person says, I'm tired of it. I'm going to try to demand my constitutional rights. That's the only thing that William McNeil did. And that's the only thing you would want your children to do. To say, as a citizen, don't I have the right to know why you're violating my Fourth Amendment rights against search and seizure unlawfully? That's it. Nothing more. So search your hearts, America. If this was your child, wouldn't you be proud that William kept his calmness in his demeanor and de-escalated it? And let that govern you when you call on the sheriff to hold these police officers accountable. Because that's what we have to get here. We have to have accountability.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. Well, I'm hoping that you're doing great from wherever you're watching me from. As you know, I'm your host and presenter Eugene Tech Stories. There's an important discussion that I want us to have. Really great thing that is happening, and it got everyone talking. Remember the story of Wiliam McNeil? 3 days ago, it hit headlines exposing what these police officers were trying to do to this man. This man was pulled over without doing nothing wrong. Okay, it was a police check, but it turned so much physical the way they handled him. And this got the world talking about this. Remember, the white people, the white America have always been remaining complicit by staying silent in these situations. Because people say they don't take things serious until it happens to people who look like them. But I'm really starting to see things different. We are seeing white people at least now believing what black people have been saying. At least people are recognizing that black people are not the problem. All these police stops that are happening around the world, especially in the United States, all these police stops that are happening to black people being pulled over. And this is something that has been going on. And I think this issue has sparked a lot of debate, talking online. Remember that this was a brutal treatment of William McNeil, Jr., a black man who was stopped, harassed, and physically assaulted by white police officers without provocation. Now, has once again exposed the deeply racialized nature of the American law enforcement. The dashcam footage confirmed that the violence, yet the offending officers, was not charged. What was notable is that white Americans have begun reacting visibly outraged. And this is important because at least people have seen the crack in the system. And now they're realizing it's not about you being a black person. I'm not going to be talking to you. Remember in the past, we had this group of white people that remained silent, and that made them complicit to all these things that were happening. But I'm glad there is changes. People are embracing multiculturalism, right? And I think this is just one of those good steps of America getting to understand what black people have been going through, right? Now, this is a proof that black people were not mad complaining about all this. And I'm just going to be asking those people that were saying that black people are complaining so much about all these things, it is right time for them to understand that black people were not complaining for nothing, because the following the things that they were complaining about, they were things that were happening to them. A perfect example is this gentleman, Wiliam McNeil, being stopped on the road without doing nothing and being harassed, slapped, right? This makes sense when we have a group of people that don't want to even open the door to the police or open the window to the police, because they always want to look at a problem even when you've done nothing, right? So this is a proof that there is a crack in the system, and at least everyone is trying to recognize this. Guys, the following is a video of white people at least coming out and talking about this. It doesn't make any difference, because we need to stand with people. We need to start talking about all these mistreatment, all these problems that are happening today, because it takes that for change to be there. So let's buckle up for this video and watch it. I'll be back, and that I'll be sharing my thoughts at the end of it all.
So this is America, a country where a black man gets punched in the face, apparently because he didn't have his headlights on. There's absolutely no reason why a man needs to get out of his car for not having his headlights on. It's not a criminal offence. They could just issue him with a ticket and send him on his way. But instead, William McNeil Jr. got punched in the face, attacked by multiple police officers, and beaten up because these fascist thugs think they can get away with it just because they're in a uniform. One of the things I find most worrying about this video is the number of people saying he should have just complied. He should have just done what he was told, when there was absolutely no reason for him to get out of the vehicle at all. I wish these people would speak to women who've escaped abusive relationships, because if you ask a woman who's escaped an abusive relationship what compliance does, she will tell you that all compliance does is feed the violence. It teaches the abuser that threats and intimidation and violence work. So they just do it again and again and again. In fascist societies, which America has become, you need to push back against fascism. You need to push back against violence and intimidation. Nelson Mandela said that he started fighting the battle for freedom on his first day in prison. He started campaigning for the right to wear long trousers when prisoners who were mixed race or Indian on Robben Island were allowed to wear long trousers. Black prisoners were expected to wear shorts. And he started that fight on the very first day in prison. With abusers, you need to set your boundaries early to stop the abuse getting out of hand. Because if you give in to these fascist cops, the fascism will just ramp up and ramp up and ramp up. We also need to think about this in the context of what's happening more broadly in America. People disappearing from the streets, women losing their rights, a president who's on a list of pedophiles and is now stopping that list from being published to protect himself. It is a country that is disintegrating, and violence will be the eventual outcome of that. More and more violence, like the violence you saw in that video, because people are no longer accountable for their actions. Power equals right in modern America, and that is the road to destruction.
Pop the door open like that?
I don't have a window that works. Is there a reason that you're pulling me over?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason why I'm pulling you over. For one thing, inclement weather, you don't have your lights on. Two things, you're not wearing your seatbelt.
It's daylight. I don't need the lights. And it's not weather. It's not raining.
Oh, this is inclement?
It's not raining.
Okay, I'm not arguing with you. I'm telling you why I'm pulling you over. Give me your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance.
No, call your supervisor. Why?
Excuse me?
Call your supervisor. Why did you pull me over?
37, 35. I'm proper driver. I've already told you.
Why did you pull me over?
Step out of the vehicle.
No.
Step out of the vehicle.
Bowers then asks for license and registration, to which McNeil replied, "No, call your supervisor," then closes his door. Bowers then calls for backup, which arrives quickly, and he instructs McNeil several times to open the door or he would break the window to remove him. Now this is where McNeil's video from inside the car begins. We see him asking the backup officer, who is unidentified, what law he's breaking, and he requests once again to speak with a supervisor. He writes in his post, quote, "Things escalated quickly, as you can see."
Can you call your supervisor?
All right, go for it.
Bowers can then be seen shattering McNeil's window, striking him in the face as he tells him to exit the vehicle. McNeil raises his hand, says, "What is your reason, sir?" as he is forcibly removed. Bauer's body cam shows officers removing the seatbelt, forcing McNeil to the ground, and one using both hands on his head into the pavement. McNeil says he suffered a concussion, chipped tooth, and several lip stitches. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office denies any wrongdoing, but says it is investigating this incident. Officer Bowers has been stripped of his duty as the investigation proceeds.
Want to know why Black Americans still don't trust the police? Here's a great example. This is Wiliam McNeil Jr., pulled over in the daytime because his headlights weren't on in possibly inclement weather. He was calm, compliant. He even put his hands in the air. He asked why he was being stopped. He asked for a supervisor. He showed no threat to anyone whatsoever. He never resisted. Then, all of a sudden, they smashed his window. He didn't fight back. Still, he didn't run. He didn't resist. And then an officer who is not supposed to be above the law, what did he do? He threw a punk-ass punch. There was no reason for that punch. Then, sadly, 3 officers dragged him out and beat him while he was still, once again, not resisting. Look at that knockout punch. Watch it carefully. All that for headlights in the daytime. No resistance. And yes, he had every right to ask for a supervisor. We all do. And don't tell me this isn't about race, because it is. Had he been white, like me, do you honestly think that would have happened to him? You know the answer. Let's not fool each other. It wouldn't have. This is why Black Americans don't trust the police. It's not paranoia. It's what they have to live through. Wiliam McNeil got fists for using his voice to ensure his rights were protected. And what happened to the officers? Were they arrested? Were they charged? Nope and nope. Administrative leave, a paid Netflix marathon vacation for beating a man on camera. That's not justice, and justice isn't for just us. It's supposed to be for all of us. We're all supposed to have the same rights. But only one group keeps getting reminded that their rights end the moment a cop gets annoyed or his fragile ego or God complex is injured or questioned. Wusses with a badge. These pathetic excuses for cops need to be removed from the force, charged with assault, and jailed like the criminals they are for betraying public safety and the image of good, honest, hard-working cops who do follow the rules. Call this what it is: racism, protection, and unacceptable for this country. Thank you very much. Please like, comment, share, and follow, and have a great day.
Wiliam McNeil Jr. I would just like to apologize completely from all the white people out here that think that that was total fucking bullshit. And I don't care if I just cussed the first 30 seconds of this. That should be the least of anybody's concern. How are you going to actively hold somebody's hands behind their back, then hit them with a straight uppercut? Along with that, how are you going to put your hands on his face in general when he was not being aggressive at all and was literally just letting you ragdoll him around? To anybody that thinks that anything like that is okay, I firmly invite you to Florida to come fade me. And to every one of those cops out there that thinks that that was a proper use of force, I'm sorry it's been 6 years since you've seen your cock, but that's not my problem. If nobody knows what I'm talking about, I'm going to put a hashtag down in the bio so that you guys can go see the absolute bullshit that law enforcement thinks that they can take. I firmly believe in justice, and I firmly believe in people having a freedom of speech, and I firmly believe in having law enforcement as a presence of protection, but that was not protection. That was straight harassment and bullying. And if there's one thing in this world that I absolutely cannot stand, it's a fucking bully. So TikTok might take this down. It's fine. I'm going to save it before. That way I can repost it until it gets the correct traction, because if this has not been dissolved, then it needs to be immediately, and there should be no question that every law enforcement officer in that interaction deserves to be fired and arrested for abuse of authority, assault and battery, domestic violence, and a hate crime, because I firmly believe that was a targeted incident.
They smashed his window and then punched him in the face. Smashed his window and then punched him more than once in the face and then ripped him out of the car. Because why? Because he wanted to speak to a supervisor. He calmly asked to speak to a supervisor after being pulled over for unknown reasons to him, and later being told that he didn't have his headlights on during bad weather. Got it. So the next time I hear any of you say, why don't they just comply? Why don't they just listen to the officers? He was. He did. And who cares if he didn't? They're clearly the criminals here, not him.
Have you guys seen the video of the guy that was arrested and they broke his window and they punched him in the face? I've seen both sides, so don't come for me that there's another side, because there is not. He told him he was picking him up for his headlights not being on during the day. You could see clearly. He said that it was raining and he didn't have his seatbelt on. That's what we're pulling over people for. That's what we're breaking windows for. That's what we're punching people for. That's what we're arresting 22-year-old guys for, because they didn't put their headlights on. They didn't have their windshield wipers on. Their seatbelt wasn't on. Are you serious? You guys know why he was arrested. We all know. And then the fact that he resisted, of course he did. They pulled him over for no reason whatsoever. And I'm sorry, I would have asked for a supervisor. I would have been like, absolutely not. And I probably would have gotten away with it. I wouldn't have gotten punched in the face. And I know that, and so do you.
Quick update about the video that I just posted about Wiliam McNeil Jr. from Florida being brutalized by the police officers. So, article just came out. No criminality was found. Did y'all watch the same video that I did? Because that was absolutely horrendous, outrageous. I don't care what kind of excuses or BS they're going to pull and try to say it was justified in any kind of way. It just wasn't. It was cruel, it was brutal, and it was not okay. Absolutely disgusting behavior. This is why we say defund the police. This is why there are so many people who protest against the police because of brutality like this, and it is consistently against minorities, and it is a real problem in this country that needs to be addressed. And the sooner we do that, the faster this country can turn around. It's one of the biggest problems in our society today, in my opinion.
Anthony McNeil, Jacksonville, Florida. Anthony McNeil, Jacksonville, Florida. It looked bad from his perspective, didn't it, guys? It did. That little cell phone clip that he edited, or however that got posted and went viral to all of us, that looked bad. It looked like the same old corrupt police doing the same old business. But that was not the case when that body cam footage came out. And I commend that sheriff for getting that stuff out within 24 hours. I mean, it was boom. Because it does justify what we saw. The only thing that is still a little questionable is after he broke that window, why did he administer that strike to the face? Now that we don't know, but they are saying something about a knife or something that he might have been reaching for. But what I can tell you is whenever that officer administered that strike to the face, he gained compliance that fast. The guy was resisting the whole time simply because he had a suspended driver's license and he was scared. That's number one. That was the whole ticket to everything. Well, I got a suspended license. If I act a certain way, maybe this officer will get, maybe I can bluff him or intimidate him, and whatever the case may be. I don't know what goes through people's heads whenever they do that. But as soon as he administered that strike to the face, his hands came up. Yeah, they still had to pull him out of the car. And when he got out of the car, he was still resisting. He said, I'm not getting on the ground. I'm not doing this, that, and the third. You have to comply with lawful orders, guys. You have to comply. If it's lawful. Y'all have a blessed day. Bye.
I understand some people see this as racial profiling. I understand some people see it because of the color of the skin. But my point is, regardless of whether the guy is black, white, Asian, doesn't really matter. Those cops had no right to treat that guy like they did. You know what I mean? You break the window, you punch the guy immediately, then tell him to get out. Why not just tell him to get out and then give him chances to get out? He was asking questions. He wasn't even refusing. He was asking questions. Why are you pulling me out? Why this? Why that? He has the right to ask what is going on. And you're telling me that you don't have the patience? If you don't have the patience, you should not be a cop. One of the main things they teach at the academy is to de-escalate. If you don't have the patience, then you should be a cop. That's plain and simple. You need to learn how to de-escalate. So if tensions are high, bring it down. Don't escalate it. Don't let it go far where you have to act the way you act and do something you stupid like that. But regardless, what do you guys think is the reason the cops acted this way? Is it because of the color of his skin? And also, what should happen to the cop? Please leave me a comment below.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. Well, I'm hoping that you're doing great from wherever you're watching me from. I'm your host and presenter, Agent Stories. Let's buckle up for this video. Now, I would like to talk about a couple of things that are really important. Imagine if there was no dashcam to record that. The story that could have been out there could have been a different story. Maybe they could have planted some cracks inside this gentleman's car to make him look like the person who had a problem. And in fact, that he is black, there could be nothing to talk about. Like it was automatically an offense, right? And thank God to the dashcam that is there. And this shows you that our ancestors, people who were there before, even before these dashcams, went through a lot of problems because there was nothing to prove this. And when people get out and talk about this, people are like, you black people, you like complaining. You know, the problem is in the black community. You black people, it's high time you start taking accountability of what you're doing. But at least black people are right all along. And these dash cams that we're seeing right now are trying to expose this. And that's the most important thing. That's the most important part of evidence to prove that even today, there is nothing wrong black people are doing. They have always been trying to do right. I'd like to talk about policing and the legacy of slave patrols. To understand this incident, one must trace the roots of American policing back to slave patrols in the 18th and 19th century. Armed group of white men who surveilled, detained, and punished black bodies deemed out of place. Now, these patrols laid the foundation for modern policing obsession with controlling and criminalizing black movement. The action against McNeil are not an aberration, but a continuation of that legacy. State-sanctioned violence used to reinforce racial boundaries and hierarchy. Remember, even when there is no legal infraction, these still happened, and these still gone on. Also, talking about surveillance without cause, the ritual of driving while black. This is something that has been happening for a long time. And a lot of people have worked so hard in exposing this. Black people being pulled over is something that has been going on for a longest time. And at some point, it was a point of discussion in the United States. Now, what happened to Wiliam McNeil is a textbook case of racial profiling, especially the phenomenon known as driving while black. Studies from the ACLU and Stanford Open Policing Project have shown that black drivers are disproportionately stopped, searched, and subjected to force, even though they are less likely than white drivers to carry contraband or break the law. McNeil's experience reflects a deeply embedded presumption of guilt that attaches itself to blackness, a presumption that no legal compliance can erase. It is a presumption that when you see a black person driving a car, there is something wrong. or is in the wrong neighborhood, or where it is not where he stays. These are wrong presumptions that have been staying for a long time, and Stanford Open Policing Project have showed that, and they have proved that. And there was a documentary that was specifically done to prove what I'm saying right now. Because this is what's been happening for the longest time. Now, let me talk about the dashcam dilemma. Seeing is believing for some. The role of dashcam is revealing the truth is significant. For many white Americans, video evidence like this serves as a rare moment of clarity. It disrupts the dominant narrative that insists police are neutral protectors. However, a black American have known that such abuses are the norm, not the exemption. The real question becomes, why does it take visual, irrefutable proof to prove white conscience? And more troubling, why does proof still fail to deliver justice? As seen in the non-indictment of the officer involved. Because even after seeing this, the police were left free. They were not charged. And this is something that we all saw, that this man was harassed, abused, slapped, call it everything that you can, because that's what happened, and we all saw it. Breaking this man's car window, like it's something that is violent, like treating a criminal. That's how they treated him, even without finding anything wrong with what he was trying to do. So if you understand what I'm saying, you get to realize that this is something that is serious, right? Let's talk about legal impunity as institutional design. The lack of charges against the officer is not a glitch in the system. It is the system functioning as designed. Remember that US law affords police officers broad discretion and legal immunity, particularly under doctrines like qualified immunity, which shield them from accountability unless misconduct is deemed clearly established by prior case law. Prosecutors often work in close alliance with police departments, making independent justice elusive. McNeil's case demonstrates how the legal structure actively insulates officers, even when the violence is unwarranted and documented. All this you're saying is just playing according to the script. And when the fault is found that it's from the officer's side, they'll just brush it off. They don't want anything to do with that. Talking about white complicity through silence and benefit. Yes, white people have become complacent in this. One of the most enduring elements of racial injustice in America is white complicity. Often through silence or rationalization, for decades, many white Americans have dismissed black accounts of police brutality as exaggerations or isolated events. Yet, this denial is itself a form of complicity. It allows the machinery of racial violence to continue unchallenged. It allows, white people benefit from a system that policies black communities more harshly while offering them the comfort of presumed innocence. McNeil's case shakes that comfort, but also indicts years of indifference. So, this is something that has been going on. This is something that has been happening. It is here with us that we are having this dashcam, and that's the power of evidence, right? Talk about racial empathy and social racial empathy gaps and the limits of outrage. Psychological studies reveal that what's often termed the racial empathy gap, the tendency for white Americans to feel less compassion for black suffering. This explains why countless abuses go unnoticed or minimized until the victim is someone who can be relatable or the evidence is undeniable. Even now, the outrage sparked by McNeil's case risks being momentary, if not channeled into sustained structural change. Outrage must mature into activism, voting behavior, institutional reform, and dismantling of policies that produce such incidents. All right. Talk about the emotional and psychological trauma of state violence. Yes, the trauma endured by Wiliam McNeil goes beyond physical assault. It reflects a psychological wounding experienced by black people subjected to unwarranted surveillance and brutality. These encounters induce anxiety, fear, humiliation, and post-traumatic stress outcomes seldom acknowledged by the legal system. McNeil becomes a symbol of a much larger crisis, a psychic toll of navigation, a society where state violence is always lacking, even in the absence of wrongdoing. These effects ripple out to black families, communities, and future generations. Right. Now, talk about the carceral logic. Innocence is not a shield. What's chilling about this case is that Wiliam McNeil did nothing wrong, yet his innocence did not protect him. This reflects what Michelle Alexander has described as the carceral logic of racial control. Blackness is inherently suspect, and the burden of proof always lies with the black body to justify its existence. Under this logic, lawfulness offers no immunity. This dismantles the myth of good black person who avoids police violence by following rules, a myth often used to blame victims rather than confront systemic abuse. When we talk about resistance through exposure and documentation, the dashcam exposure of this abuse represents a powerful act of resistance. In the absence of justice from courts, documentation becomes a political weapon, a tool to challenge dominant narratives and galvanize public consciousness. Black communities have long used media, from E.W. Wells' anti-lynching journalism to today's smartphone videos, to resist erasure. But documentation alone is not justice. It must lead institutional change. Body cameras, civilian oversight boards, defining and relocating police budgets, and revisiting prosecutorial standards. Also another thing to talk about. Now, towards a wide reckoning with racism. For white Americans reacting to McNeil's ordeal, this moment must be more than shock. It must be a reckoning. It requires confronting our American identity, comfort, and security have been built on the backs of black suffering. It demands listening, believing, and yielding space to black leadership. The white awakening must now center white guilt, but rather white responsibility. Solidarity means more than empathy. It means challenging institutions, co-workers, school boards, unions, and political systems that allow such violence to persist. Right. I'd like to end this by saying that Wiliam McNeil's abuse just reflects America's back to itself. The violence was not hidden. The evidence is clear, and yet justice remains absent. This exposes the illusion of post-racial progress and calls the nation to moral account. The outrage of white Americans, if sincere, must be channeled into lasting transformation. Otherwise, the country will continue to cycling mourning of the same injustices. McNeil's case is not just a tragedy, it's a call for conscience, a demand for truth, and a test for whether America can face the rot at its institutional core. I'm your host and presenter, Eugene Stories. Thank you for taking your time to watch the video. Like, subscribe, share. You know how we do it. So, until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salam.